There are many ways people get themselves into debt. Credit cards are the #1 way to do this, but there's also a new way, a more painful way to do this as well. This is through check cashing or payday loan type businesses. Many of us in this economy are struggling to make ends meet. Most of us have had our wages frozen. Some of us have even lost our jobs. But there's one business that is actually flourishing in this economy, and this is the check cashing, payday loan type businesses as well. How would it feel to make 500 to 1,000% interest off of individuals daily? That's exactly what these businesses are doing. And how would you feel knowing that the person on the other end of the counter is having a hard time making ends meet, paying bills, providing food, gas in the car, etc.? These are the types of business people that these businesses prey on. Some of the basic requirements to obtain a payday loan are quite simple. 1, you need to have a steady job. 2, you need to have a checking account. 3rd, you need to provide a reference, and that's basically it. These businesses do not ask for a credit report. They don't run a credit report, so it's very easy for individuals to obtain these loans. Let's say, for instance, an individual goes in and takes $100, needs a $100 loan. That individual would write a post-dated check. Most of these businesses give you 2 weeks to repay the loan. So if they took $100, they would write the check for the 521% interest, which would be $20 for the 2 weeks. The check would be written for $120. If after 2 weeks that individual cannot pay that money back, the check is then cashed and deposited. And the individual that wrote the check probably doesn't have the money to cover that cost. So now they're not only charged for the money that they've taken from this lender, they're also being charged overdraft fees from their local bank as well. And the cycle continues because that individual is going to go to another one of these businesses probably to find more money, and they just keep getting themselves deeper and deeper. Here's a visual aid that I provided for you that I found very interesting. This is for the state of Utah, and it kind of gives a background of how these businesses came about. In 1984, the very first business opened here in the state of Utah. 10 years later, that number jumped to 14. And 2 years ago, in 2007, the total number of these businesses located statewide was at over 381 stores. Mr. Jeremillo, he is the Utah Department of Financial Institutions. He stated there are more check cashing payday loan type businesses located here in the state than 7-Elevens, McDonald's, Burger Kings, and Subways combined. He says it's easier to get a payday loan than it is to get a hamburger or a sandwich. Those are pretty astounding numbers. What are some ways that these businesses can be regulated? First, many states are trying to enact ordinances and legislation to limit these businesses because of the outstanding and outrageous interest that they charge. The federal government, for instance, has put a cap of 36% interest for military families because a lot of military families are using these businesses and can't afford that 521% interest. Many cities, including the one that I work for in the city of Orem, have enacted city codes to regulate these businesses. In the city of Orem, the code was drafted that they are allowed one of these businesses per 10,000 people. Current population in the city is around 90,000 people. So with that code, there should be 9 of these businesses located in the city. Right now, that number is around 35. So you can see the saturation that these businesses have. In conclusion, these businesses have a very long, damaging effect among individuals. They use flashy colors, bright signs. The individuals in their commercials are happy, good looking, and that's the way that they portray it, that there's nothing wrong with it, when in fact that's absolutely false. They're damaging, they're charging these interests. These people can't pay their loans back. They're charged with these overdraft fees from their bank, and it just continues to cycle. With education, these individuals can learn not to use these type of businesses and to rely on other means to make ends meet. Are there any other questions that you may have?
What happens if the customer does not pay their loan back on time?
Great question. If the customer doesn't pay their loan back on time, like I stated, they're given 2 weeks to pay it. If they don't pay it back, the lender cashes that check. If the check is cashed, more than likely it will bounce. So now the individual is out the money that they borrowed from the lender. They have overdraft fees from their bank, and if they can't pay it back, they may be subject to collection fees and/or legal action. Any other questions?
Is there any sign that these businesses are slowing down due to the current economic situation?
You know, there's really not. These businesses are actually flourishing in this economy. They are going other ways of just doing check cashing and payday loans. They're also doing pawn shops. They're also buying and selling gold and things like that as well. So people are trading in jewelry, trading in valuables to get the money that they need. So they're really not slowing down. If there's no other questions, I hope the information that I presented has been helpful and you can make a sound judgment for these businesses. Thank you.